Dome. I'm probably a little quiet. I feel like I'm quiet, but I don't promise. Then I hear more noise because I'm hearing. I don't get the noise cancelling, and I can't tell if anyone's even on yet. I should check. Let's do a roll call and see who's here. Oh, gotta close that. Turn it. Need to get down, please. Hey, Aiden. Nice to see you there. Can you confirm whether my volume's okay or not? I honestly can't tell at this point. I got a replacement microphone, which means it came in the box with not the right knob setting, and I don't know. Like, it sounds okay in my monitoring, but yeah, it looks like it's pretty low, so I need to figure out how to turn it up without making things weird, because I can also still hear myself, like my laptop fan. Come on. Alright, let's see. Does that sound better? It's a bit louder. Probably could. Hello. How's that? Is that okay? It still doesn't look like the noise cancelling is keeping up with it so well. But another truck outside. Hello, Base Pill. Hello. Hello. So right now it's sitting over here, but maybe I need to move it just a bit closer. I'll mute it before I deafen everyone. I don't know. Okay, is that better? Add compression. Well, it's running through Voicemeeter, and the problem is, I don't want to. I gotta be careful not to completely destroy the sound. Hello. Alright, we're pretty loud now. Loud. So, we're going to do a bit of a roll call in the chat here because we got some submissions. I can see one from Citros. So, at Citros. Citros. Who else is here? We got Jadder submission. At Citros, at Jadders. Yeah. Let's see. Who else is in here? Eki, nice to see you already. Sunny Skies. I haven't seen you in the chat yet. Oh, it's probably out of focus, it doesn't type. And who else? Great. Alright, I see you in the chat there too, great, so. Are you ready for feedbacks? Also, if anyone wants to join in on Video Ninja call thingy, then I can set that up fairly quickly. So let me know. As usual, I have not really had a chance to find people to join in. My time management's gone to meh. But oh well, you know, what it is what it is. Citros, are you there in the chat? Because we can start with yours. If you're not, then we can go to whoever's. No, I can hear some people outside. Well, I see. I'm going to start, I think, with Deadman and Cassandra, because I can see him there in the thingy. So we'll start with that, just because. This is What's the name of the whip? Oh, fuck off with the stupid pop-ups. Go away! I don't want you. I really need to install an ad blocker on my Firefox because it's getting ridiculous. This is another day. Progress check 1.1 by Deadman and Cassandra. Post a link in the chat to you want to join in. A link to what, Aidan? The Video Ninja or the something else? I'm not sure what the context here is. We'll start with this track and then I can figure that out in a second. Just looking for a bit of feedback to make sure I'm on the right track. I've been trying to research and work in 5 genres, the relevant ones of this track being synthwave. It doesn't have to be pure synthwave, but that was the genre I wanted to focus on for this track, and is where I'd like the feedback to be focused towards. Another Day by Deadman and Cassandra. I should mute myself. That would help. that was another day. Don't autoplay. Okay, it's fine. It's not autoplay. That was another day progress check 1.1. You're gonna have to let me know in the comments. I feel like some of the bass was actually a bit buried in places, and it meant that it's very mid-rangey. I mean, I don't know, dream synth in its and dream wavy stuff in general isn't so reliant on bass, but I think when you're dealing with such with a smoother sound like that, where it doesn't have a huge amount of harmonic variation, that it does benefit from being a little bit more prominent in the mix. And you can still, compensate with a little bit of slightly stronger side chaining compression between your kick and your snare and your bass, that kind of stuff. But I don't know whether it's just my setup being weird today, because my setup is weird today. Is the noise level better? I don't know. I honestly can't tell at this point. In terms of arrangement, I think it's actually quite nice. And I didn't feel like any particular point was boring, which is good. And for going towards that sort of aesthetic deliberately, you nailed it. It definitely is the right tone and the right mood for it. Anyone in the chat have any good suggestions? I mean, there's been some nice comments here. Gray's liked the lead sound. Aiden liked the jazz piano influence and thinks that you should lean into that. So I think that's a good suggestion. I think for me at least, I don't listen to a huge amount of this sort of stuff, mainly because a lot of it ends up blurring together a bit. It's like a lot of people in the genre just want to be home, with resonance and a few other sort of tracks where there's a specific pace to it and a vibe. And I think I agree with Aiden's suggestion here. Playing in with the jazziness would actually elevate it and help it stand out a lot. I don't know, nobody else. Anyone in the chat, tell me what you feel. Yeah. So, I can't think of anything else that's really useful to my head right now for it. It's progress. You are making progress. So, I don't know. Just, maybe just experiment a bit more, I suppose. So you say you aren't trying to be so loyal to synthwave, so it'd be nice to hear more out there sounds. Maybe play around with more delay experimentation, that kind of thing. Just to, again, if you're not going to be loyal, don't play with the basics. Keep pushing. I don't know. I'm telling myself. Does anyone want to join in on the Video Ninja thingy? Because I can link an invite in the chat. It's a bit weird sitting here talking to myself, but we'll move on for now. This is Eggy. I see you on the chat already. This is Blazing Star, trying to capture the feel of a laid-back summer day, looking for feedback on the mix and structure. down a bit. It definitely gets a bit repetitive here, and yeah, it could go, yeah, like, well, this is the same loop effectively every few bars. I like your suggestion, Angel of Hate. Yeah, the grades as well, like, the structure needs work, the whole thing blends together. No, don't all play whatever that is. Make that drum hit really hard, add a sub, and give it a ton of side chain to make it really punch. I think what you're asking for is to turn it into a trap track, effectively, like a chill trap kind of thing. And that would certainly be a way to change the intensity. The description was trying to make it seem like a summer day, and a laid-back summer day. And I think if we're going to go with that, even on a laid-back summer day, there's still a momentum to that day. Like what would, in a chat, like, tell me what would you do? Like, what is your idea of a relaxing summer day? Like, you get up, and you're gonna go out for a cycle, or have a barbecue or whatever. So you're gonna go get your ingredients together and bring all your friends round, and it's gonna be sort of a, even on a laid back day when it's nice and you're taking advantage of the weather, there's going to be a climactic point in that day where everything's really awesome. And I think if that's the story this track wants to have, Eggy, that's how you have to think about it. Like, you know, choose a memory of your own, like, you know, and go, okay, well, how did I get to that memory? And use that to sort of decide your energy levels for your track. Because, yeah, grades need some kind of build and release of tension, even if it's a little bit. Maybe strip back some elements here and there, or evolve the drums for more defined sections, etc. Exactly. And most like instrumentals are just entirely derived from the build and release of tension. It's an important component that you always have to keep in mind. It might also be fun to structure the song as a full summer day, starting over the most mellow moments in the morning and changing depending on how the day goes. Make it a story, you know. Danger of Hate is a good comment as well. So yeah, I'd say you have a good starting riff, but it's just like now you have to make that riff evolve in some way to give a bit of a drive and momentum to the track. I think it's easy, isn't it, to get stuck in loopitis. I do it a lot. And then I always had to tell myself, no, you got a nice loop, but it's not a song. We're going to loop back a little bit in the list. Because I want to make sure people were here when their thingies and try and get better at that. Next up we have Citros. I'm not completely sure, so you can say anything I could improve upon. Also, the track is long, but it's perfect. So this track is perfect, therefore, like, that's it. It's perfect. I'm joking a little bit, but... it down a little bit, just to, well, it's a long track, but also, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that entire 4-minute section we just had, it doesn't do enough to differentiate itself from the intro. Like, the first 2 minutes-ish is sort of your extended DJ-friendly intro, but like stuff like this change in riff here, we need that earlier. This bit forward, and Angel of Hate suggesting that an example of something to look forward to and compare would be I Remember. I think I know the track you're thinking about, you mentioning there. It's got a really catchy vocal hook in it. Yeah, automating reverb is a good way to add a little bit of spice. But I think beyond those sort of minor automations, it needs another variant on this core riff, because it just sort of settles. You got kind of 2.5 energy levels throughout your entire track, and it's still like melodic, but it doesn't really do much more than your two riffs. So it could even be something like changing that bass line, the pattern of it slightly, so it introduces more tension. Because right now you got just going and like you can do more than the same key without ruining the vibe. So I don't know, yeah, for me at least, it just feels like it's just constant. The same, like the intro is the whole song, and maybe that's your intention. In which case, honestly, like I'm not gonna say, "Oh, change your writing style," but I don't know, just not quite right in that sense for me, at least, my taste. But then again, that's it. It's all very personal, isn't it? Hello, Adu D&B. I assume you make drum and bass. Did you submit something tonight? There's only been 12 submissions so far, I guess. But it's my fault for making this so last minute. Great. Play with release times of the synth, maybe very plucky early on. That's a good suggestion as well. Lots of things to do. Not. Yay! I'm alright. Busy evening ahead. I've been messing about. I got my microphone replaced, so another version of the same microphone, because the other one, the headphone jack on it died, and I was only getting sound out of one side, which was particularly unhelpful. I think I've seen Jadders in the chat there somewhere. Oh, well, I'll play you anyway. Well, it's a USB microphone. It's actually rather handy because it works with all my other devices, not just an interface. So, but it's not a bad microphone once I dial in the levels and add a metric ton of noise cancelling from. So I got this. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, I recommend it. It's called NVIDIA Broadcast. It's a free little applet. You can see it in the music window there. It allows you to add noise removal and echo removal, which I don't know how well that works. Let's turn it on and see what it does. How does this make it sound? Is it different? I also can't tell from my end. I don't really think there was much echo in the first place. I don't know. Go away. But it's a free little applet. It's quite handy. Deals with traffic noise and stuff quite well. Next up we have Jadders with Dreams. I'm mainly looking for mixing suggestions, but anything else is highly appreciated. Let's go. That would help. I think I'm in agreement with the chat here in that it's too busy, and it'd be okay to have one bit where it's like really intense like that, but you're gonna have to now start deconstructing your melodic idea a bit to make it easier to deal with, and I think your sound design is what's going to informing which notes to cut, because right now, while your sounds are very stabby, especially during the color basey bits, there is a lot of sustain on those notes. So they're all starting to bleed into each other in a way that makes it even harder to really discern the actual pattern, the repetition of your melody, because it makes it harder to really understand which, like, each note is an individual entity. And yeah, I think it really is just a case of going back over it and deliberately trying to see which notes you can omit in each section. So that then when they are all together, then it's more like you've built up to it than it is just all the way through. You also added you can see there's still room for more variety and change and evolution of that, because you look at the outro there, it was an interesting shake-up of the same previous melodic idea. So you clearly have more ideas in your head that you just need to sit and hash out and find the best combinations to really make it feel like you're actually doing something different with it all the way through. I'd also be a bit careful, because there are moments where it gets really, really atonal, which is when you've just been playing with melodic components all the way through, makes it a bit weird. So maybe give yourself more transitory space before you come in with the atonal stuff. Like if you want, right now there's no clear, in your waveform, there's no clear defined drop as such. And that atonal stuff is really good for high energetic, droppy weirdness. So you're going to have to make that negative space beforehand to create that sense of contrast. And also, it's like, well, anyone here likes sushi? It's like, whenever you have your bit of sushi, and then you have a bit of ginger and wasabi to cleanse your palate before you have the next different type of fish. And this is kind of what you want sometimes with songs, where you have the arrangement. It's link Q to summon the form. It's a thingamajiggy. Link Q. And yeah, it's just like, that's what you need whenever you introduce a new tone. And when you're switching between things like melodic and atonal weirdness, you just need more space. And you can use percussive elements and Foley and risers and downlifters. Just anything that sort of creates that cleansing moment of change that doesn't also, isn't defined by what's before and what comes after as much. It's just there as a transition. So it's close, but it just needs a little bit more finessing to really get this idea to probably, but really interesting sound design, and it does go hard. It's just now you need to be hard in a slightly easier to understand way, so that then you don't lose your listeners halfway through because they're like, I haven't really gotten into the rhythm here. Next up we have Sunny Skies. Thank you for your submission, Jadders. Sunny Skies. I'm trying to learn to build soundscapes and ambient environments. Always gone with super loud songs that are way too full, so I wanted to fill that space with background stuff instead. I want to learn about EQ using longer reverb tails. It gets a bit much during long drum portions. I noticed that as I'm typing this. Also, all of these instruments are made sound designed with Harmor. I've never used Harmor before this song, so that's new. Harmor is in FL? Am I remembering that? Or is it... Is it Harmor the FL plugin? Yeah. I'm not like... I wish that adverb would go away. So, any feedback you guys have on what is meant to be... oh no, I pasted in the wrong form. Gotta be in this window. Also, if anyone's interested in joining me in on the stream, I have the ability to take guests on. Let me know. This is Snowfall by Sunny Skies. Okay, so I do have some thoughts about the sound design in particular that you can hear, especially here. You'll have to explain to me what you mean by multi-stream IDEN in this context, but regardless, the Sunny, you're going to have to be very careful, not just through things like reverb tails, but right now you're building up a lot of resonances in your track that aren't, like, it's quite uncomfortable to listen to in that sense. And part of it, I think, is, and well, you look at Angel's commentary here, does feel a little packed together, but needs some freedom. A lot of that resonance, I think, is because they're all occupying the same portion of your stereo field. And so they're all going, and it's behaving in a little bit of a weird way that you probably weren't really trying for. So you're either going to have to look at spacing them out note-wise. Use more of your octave range, so that then they're not using the same frequencies. Well, it's not that you need less of your phaser panning and stuff. You just need to control it more. Be more specific about how you're using your phasers. And obviously EQ can come into it. But also just, if you are going to use the same thing, then you're going to have to make it so they're not sitting in the same phaser stereo range. So like, you could have one phase, if we imagine it like a number line from 0 to 10 and negative 10 on either side, or 5 or whatever. Anyway, you can control which numbers your phasers hit that makes the sound bounce between each side. So the trick here is to either make it so your phasers are alternating which end they're coming from, and then you, because they're reducing the number of points where the sounds intersect with the same range and the same portion of your stereo field, it makes it easier to EQ. Because they don't need to all be on the same ratio, the same beat, to go back and forth in. And they don't all need to go, to the same range. They can go smaller and bigger. Choose a sound that you want to have as your widest sound, and then you work your way in and fill it up the space that way. So it's just lots of little nips and tucks there. Thank you. That's a better way of describing it than that, because my brain sometimes fails at English. Well, this is why you do it one at a time, rather than trying to mix it together separately. You deliberately just do it like one. You just choose, like, make it almost semi-arbitrary, I guess, and just say, okay, I'm gonna go and make this one sound do it in this one particular way, and then you can see which settings you've dialed it to, how extreme you've dialed it to, and if you need to, stick a stereo field imager of some kind to sort of, so you can actually see it. Some, there's reference tools. The DAW, when I do it in Samplitude, I usually get this spectrum and analyzer thingy that can phase oscilloscope kind of thing. Ozone imager, that can, you can use that to sort of see what it's doing. I don't use Ozone imager because I haven't paid for a license for Ozone imager. I think I used to have a version of Elements that sort of worked, but I can't remember what happened to that. But anyway, there are multiple ways of doing it. There's lots of free stereo imaging plugins out there as well, that just for analyzing it, so you can see what it's doing. If you can't hear it, use visual aids, because that's what they're there for, to show you the stuff that you're struggling to perceive otherwise. But it's a nice idea. It is just ambient is tricky. It's harder than it looks, and harder than it sounds. At least I find that way anyway. But I might just be an idiot. Who knows? Who we got next? Because I'm going to close the queue for now because we've got 21 submissions. Thank you for waiting so patiently, Grades. You're up next. This is a collab with another producer, The Gnome. Are they really short, Grades? You'll have to tell me. Do you know? I think that most of it was really solid. Although I kind of wish some of the really, really funky stuff was more to the trap. Then again, I guess it's always that question Nisha likes bringing up of always made them wanting more, and it's better sometimes if it's only once. Like we'll start. I should just go through some of these old recordings and have like a soundboard of Isha saying wise things. There's like your drums are really cool, but there's this percussion that's sort of in the. It's like a wood blocky, and it's really loud, like compared to everything else. At least it is on my headphones right now. It's almost distracting because it's very, very dry. And I don't know, did anyone else hear that as well? It was like right above the rest of the drums. And yeah, indie vocals make it vibey and semi-understandable. That's my problem when I write songs. I'm never happy with semi-understandable. I want it to be like present and like, yeah. But no, it is actually a thing. It's a sound for this sort of mellow, like, I don't know what do they describe it as these days. You get like, you look at some of Tame Impala's older work, and there's a few other bands I can think of that my brain has forgotten the names of. Yeah, I enjoyed listening to it too. Don't really know any other good suggestions right now, but maybe I'll think of something later and message you. Because overall it's vibey, and obviously as well with other people coming in, it's quite cool that you can make such interesting stuff. You and Aiden need to team up. Aiden, grades, collab. No, because I think you like if you can pull this sort of aesthetic off grades, you'd be a good fit. Next up is Aiden, and you'll see what I actually know is I can never predict what Aiden's actually going to send in. Wondering about the mix on this one. For some reason it sounds a bit lackluster, so would love to hear your take. Coastal Sunway by Aiden. actually reminds me of the Spyro soundtrack. And I think that you could do with some messing about with filters to like squeaky bits on your sound, so it's not all the same sort of vibe all the way through. Also might be good to add a section or two of summer ambience. What would you class as summer ambience? Is it just like, is it just beach sounds? Is there like, you know, I don't really know. I don't go to tropical islands or anything. It's like seagulls, waves, ocean sounds. And I really like the ambience. It's like, and the vibe of this track. It's just really dense all the way through, and it could do with a little bit of trimming back. I think your individual sounds are strong enough that you don't need to overdo it. And anyone got any suggestions of references? Because yeah, I'm pretty convinced that it's like Spyro soundtrack would be a good place to start with. Because there's a few pieces a bit like this in that score for those those games. Orbital. So there's another suggestion. I've never played Orbital. Is it good? Anyone else? Any got other suggestions of references, places to look for this kind of sound? Things for inspiration. Next up, Uvo, are you in the chat there? I think I saw you earlier. Hi, I could have, but I was kind of still vibing out to Ivan's thing, so that was... Also, yeah, by the way, links, I still don't know how to get links to work in the LBC chat through the moderator thing, so if you have links to anything, paste it in the Discord in events and bots, okay? Thank you. Next up, by Uvo, which I'm sure I saw you around earlier, so I guess I'm going to assume you're here. How the mix feels, the composition mostly improving by drum and bass stuff here. This is... did it work? Or is it just... No, it's not. I didn't copy paste. No, go away, Aiden. I'm sorry. Don't want you anymore. Oh no, it's an advert. What are we gonna do? I'm not paying for Spotify Premium, that's what. Plus, this is my secondary account logged in. I don't know why I'd pay for it on 2 accounts. I'd always have to make sure that I'm into 18 seconds. Did anyone pay attention to the new iPhone launch yesterday? They added USB-C finally, but it's only USB 2 on the base iPhone 15 and 15 Plus. Boo! Alright, is there another advert or no? We're good. Drowning by Uvo. So, Angel of Hate, I feel like it would be good to have a melody, maybe a piano, a soft synth going to counter vocal samples. And I find it funny that you said that, and then immediately that's what came in. So maybe you need a gentler version of that melody, because you got a really nice sort of salt lead sound, which allows your track to go pretty heavy and harmonically interesting alongside the bass. And but maybe you need to reference that melody a little bit earlier or on in some way. You could even play around with the reverb or delays there as well. Like you could just have a couple of notes from your lead melody in the second half and then just let them echo out into the space, which could then address Salvati's commentary. How's the sub? I thought it was quite well defined. That's actually one of the areas of your track I wouldn't change. It's a very nice sub. Your drums were also just the right level of clicky and snappy and transienty to punch through. I think that was rather good. I think it's just now that you likely did you write this linearly, Uvo? Like, so you started with your intro sort of thing, and then you worked out your vibe, and then you got to this sort of second half of your track and realized you need to do something different, so you created something that riffed on that and evolved things forward. Is that kind of how you wrote this track? Yeah. So now it's just this is something that I always have to remind myself to do. Is just going back over your start and seeing, okay, I got here. How can I really connect these two bits? So yeah, just go now you can go outside of the linear workflow, and because your rough structure is fine, there's nothing wrong with it. There's some really good stuff on tonight. Thank you everyone for submissions. Distorted sounds are fun as well. So I don't know. I just it's just that fine tooth comb of have you gelled everything together and hinted what's coming, because if I listen at the start, I don't really expect it to go that distorted and crazy, which is fine. It's a surprise almost, but you can kind of glue it together, I think, a little bit better, and just by adding another couple of elements to signpost ahead. Well, it's worth experimenting to see what you can do to fix it. Yeah. Well, everyone, this is the thing. Your workflow affects the outcome just generally. Discord ID, I don't know who that. I got a Discord ID number, but that doesn't mean anything to me. Adu. Are you in the chat, Adu? Ah, yeah. You're on there. So we've got... More. I did see you earlier, once I figured it out. But, the other thing, Evo, before I go on, is maybe as well those vocal stab, like, choir soundy bits. You could probably mess about a little bit with, like, pitch bending them and stuff, just a little bit as the track progresses to add a little bit more variance. But that's the only other thought I can think of, and I think everyone generally who's watching was generally enjoyed. I actually can't tell how many people are watching right now because my window's not open. I just got the chat open. But this is Stab Final by Adu D&B. This is an old Knife Party Skrillex type electro house track. Okay, let's...
Come sound with a rude boy ting. Hey! sound with a rude boy thing.
Well, I have to say that track is probably the contender for the loudest of tonight. Stab Final by Adu. Jambo, I think I agree on the synthesizer. It's not that the actual idea of adding them is bad or anything. It's just there's a little bit too harsh and pitchy, so it gets a bit painful to listen to. So I'd actually, pull them down in terms of volume a little bit because they're already so high frequency. They're thinking about everything else anyway. And yeah, it's possible the drums are smashing into them early as well. So actually, say that's not bad. Gods, would there be a way to tail that string out into that final synth might sound cool? Still too loud. See, it's that loud. I pulled it down 12 decibels. Still not enough. I closed the queue for the minute. We'll see how fast we can get through the rest of them. I'm trying to think of how you might do this Yod's suggestion. Well, one way I think would be to... Well, you literally use a sidechain. So then you could have it so that then when the new sound comes in, it just ducks the old one, so you end up with this sort of overlap that way. Otherwise, you're just looking at freezing the tracks and stitching them together manually a little bit with some other volume automation and effects. I think on the whole, it's definitely a throwback to that sort of big room electro house kind of era. Which, does anyone even make that sort of play that sort of stuff out anymore? I don't know what's relevant for these corners of DJ stuff. Oh, we got another advert. Go away. On the whole, I think it was well constructed. You just need to maybe listen with the volume turned down. Because it's easy for everything to sound sort of really good when it's really loud. And you'll pick out the stuff that really does stand out over everything else if you aren't listening as loud. So maybe that would be the last thing sort of I would do for this track, would just go over it one more time, the whole thing, and take notes. But again, like, pull your master volume down. You can obviously just do it on like your volume fader on your PC or whatever. Doesn't really matter how you do it, but yeah, that would maybe be how I would... The other thing would be to just play it on a really shitty speaker system and see if it translates entirely the way you want it to. Because if it doesn't, obviously you have to tweak it a little bit. You aren't ever going to get 100% perfect, but you kind of have to just sort of get the gist across. So this is Ready by Nelative, who I've seen in the chat for a little bit as well. Not any specific feedback, not really smiley face. Ready or not, here you come. Bad SoundCloud, stop autoplaying. So I'm trying to think of what the name of the genre for this stuff is as well. Obviously it's a bit like video gamey, chiptune-y, but you also have that wonky bass element that you get with well, there's a few labels out there that kind of really enjoy publishing this kind of stuff where it's happy, euphoric, and generally very pretty. So that was a nice vibe. I'm trying to think if there's anything I don't know. I feel like there's nothing that needs changing. It's a very, very loud master. I'd be careful with that because but nothing sounded off. It's just very loud. So I had to turn my headphones down a little bit, but that's protect your hearing. And I don't really think anyone else has any. Does anyone else have any notes? Any notes at all? Or do you agree with me that it just sounds really good and there's not really anything useful to tweak here? No? Okay. Well, good job. That might be the first no notes submission for tonight. So well done. And I'm Vuta. The queue is closed for the minute because there's still a fair number to get through. If I reopen it, I will let you know. So we've got another 10 tracks to get through. Eggy, you submitted a second one, so I'm going to skip over that for the minute. And we've got Ace Summers. Are you there in the chat, Ace? Let's find out. Ace Summers, are you around? Are you awake? Right, we'll wait. Who else we got in here? Praveen Stakes remix. I don't know if we can play that because remix. Praveen, you'll have to tell me what's up with the state of that remix because if it's something like if it's for a friend or whatever, you're probably okay with playing it. Alright, well we're gonna play Salvati now until someone gets back to me because being online gets priority. And Salvati's been hanging out in chat for a little while. This is Rainbow Road 3 Demo 4. So this is a Mario Kart reference, I'm pretty sure. like your if you're gonna do an outro like that, you just fade it down because it just sort of stops. So that's one little note, I suppose. Nothing really all that major. But the other thing, go advertising. I don't care. They're just shoving all the adverts my way. The other thing is your bass and your drums are really really rigid. That's had a part of the sound. That's fine. But I've also noticed a lot of the rest of your melody is also very on grid, and it might be worth working out whether you can syncopate things a little bit more in that aspect. Like everything around your core could be a little bit more flexible because you've already got your rigid structure there, and it's just painting between the lines a little bit more, I think, would be beneficial. Because right now it is a sort of like you've got almost like you've played sample loops with it, but like I know that's not really, you've got it in your MIDI or whatever else, and but you got your arrangement itself, everything. The actual structure of the track is neat and it works. So it's just blurring the lines between the sections a little bit more, and making it sure that what doesn't need to be rigid isn't rigid. But so far, at least Jambo's kid apparently enjoyed the vibe. So I guess that's what more can you want? Is people who have no reason to like your stuff liking your stuff. It's a good place to be in, and you always make such optimistic stuff. So that's always nice. Change of pace. Next up, we have Jambo Graham. Scottish flag there. Any general feedback, I guess, please. So this is Body and Mind by GT, aka Jambo Graham, there in the Twitch chat. I'm just going to pull the volumes back up. Thank you for your...
Push your body and your mind. 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 push your body and your mind.
So that was Body and Mind by GT. Does that stand for anything in particular? Maybe it should be G&T, Gin and Tonic. So, I'm not going to suggest quitting music, don't do that. It's a nice atmosphere. I do agree with Salvati, aka Syndicat, there in the chat. Want instruments to react a little more to the drums, just a tiny bit. There are a couple of ways I could imagine doing that. One of them would be to play around with gates, where you can have it so only when one sound reaches a threshold on the audio volume, relationship thing, it hits a point, and that allows another sound through at the same time. That gates are really fun. If you what's the Twitch channel? And oh, sorry, TV, not TB, TV. I can't type. Come on. The other thing would obviously be something like sidechain compression. Now, because I agree that it would only be a smidge, but you can sidechain pretty much anything you want to anything else, and it's just about ducking. So while gating is allowing something through at the same time as something else, your ducking would be pulling something down when something it's almost the opposite, I suppose. Not entirely, but the relationship is similar. So you can choose to have things like your if your guitar note comes in slightly after your piano note, then you could sidechain your guitar to the piano, so the piano at the end of the tail ducks down a bit more, so it makes space for the guitar to come in. That'd be one way of doing that. Salvati, I think you were saying something about doing it with the drums specifically. So it's about finding relationships there that add a bit of a pulse to the track in your rest of your instruments. Nell Fusion saying the guitar sounding thing was a little too loud or present, perhaps too stereo-y. Possibly. I think that the biggest thing about it is that it's it sounds very MIDI, like a loop kind of thing that's sort of static. Some I don't know. It's about you'd have to introduce slightly more harmonic variation in the guitar, I think, to make it sound a little bit less fake. I don't know. But it's a bit tricky. I find guitar really annoying to work with when it comes to virtual guitars, but I don't know. There must be some trick because people do use it and get away with it. But it always just sounds sort of dodgy. If it's too stereo-y in Nell's opinion, and you'd probably want to use something like a stereo automation bouncy thing, something like Ozone or whatever. You could reduce the stereo field. The other thing would be to do it old school and use an EQ. If you are going to have it that wide, then pull down on the high end a little bit more and the low end, so you sort of end up with a nyeh, because the intensity of the high end and the intensity of the bass, the further away you can pull it back that way, and so you end up with something wide but also further back, and that could be interesting. I don't know. I think my other final thing would be that vocal sample. If you're going to use it that many times, you tweak how you present it every time. It might be a case of starting to mess around with vocoders, perhaps, or something like formant shifting and pitch mappy kind of weirdness. Have fun with it. It's just stops it being the same sample every time by changing how you process it in the following repetitions, just a little bit. But that one's not really any firm recommendation. Just experiment, see what you like. Because you can do anything with vocals. You could turn it into something that sounds like Hatsune Miku, for all I know. I don't know. Lots of ways you can play around with it. But cool vibe. Overall, and the structure itself didn't outstay its welcome. So I think you've got a solid skeleton here. Thank you for your submission, and maybe someday we will actually meet since you're in Scotland too. Where's my mouse gone? That's a good question. Next up, we have Energy. Any feedback on the song's over a decade old? Do you still have the project file, Energy? Why are you submitting something that's a decade old? Oh no, it's another advert. How dare you sound... I keep getting told by the adverts. I keep getting caught by them. Alright, so we got 30 seconds on this advert, and then there's another advert for it could be however many long. You have the project file, okay, so I guess feedback isn't useless on this one because you have the project file, that's good. Tell us a bit about the track. Energy. Why is it called Centerpiece? Or you just name songs random things until you finish it and then... Ooh, it's got guitar samples from somebody. Recording. Alright, let's get this working properly. This is Centerpiece by Energy.
I'd like to begin with a fact. Begin with a fact. 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 Fact.
So I'm going to start by suggesting one. Well, my first thought is that vocal sample is kind of unnecessary. It doesn't really actually add to the vibe that you've got. I mean, the sample editing and stuff is neat, but like I don't really think it makes it better. This track, I think, could just get away with being entirely instrumental and ambient-y, kind of vibey focused. So that'd be the first thing I'd personally cut. But I'm going to, like, you said this track's 10 years old. No, there are things with the mixdown and whatever that are a little bit iffy. And obviously, if you wanted to spend time just tweaking the mix down or whatever, fine. But it's not really all that fun. Like, let's face it, it's been 10 years. Like, I don't know about you or anyone else in the chat, like, anyone who's been producing for such a long time. Like, I'm almost up to 10 years, 9.5 years or whatever. I think it'd be better to think about remixing the ideas. Like, as in, like, completely deconstructing it, making an entirely new project that uses bits of this and goes somewhere else with it in a crazy way that reflects your current taste and your new abilities that you've gained in the last decade. Because it's likely, I don't know about you, but my approach is currently changing. It's not the same as what I was doing when I started making music, or even a few years ago. Like, I'm constantly trying to move on and do different things and change my workflow to change how I do everything and what comes out. And, like, if you've got some new equipment that you've gained since then, try and maybe focus on that and how you can, feed these melodies and feed the samples and whatever else you've got here into the new aspects of your workflow and come up with something completely crazy. I think that'd be more fun than just trying to spit polish an old track, because that doesn't really actually help you get better as a producer and someone, driving to whatever direction you're going in now, which is likely different from what it was. Like, I know I'm not aiming for exactly the same sound I was 5 years ago, 2 years ago even. I'm trying different things, and I'm sure you are as well. So, I'd see, like, if you've got the project file, you've got all those stems, tear it to bits. See what else you can make with it. Like that's, honestly, that would be my recommendation with something like this, just because it doesn't, it's highly unlikely something from that long ago reflects who you are now. And you'll get more of a sense of fulfillment by being able to twist it and warp it and whatever. So, like, you're a different person. And it's going to be different anyway, just because of that. But it is a neat idea. I like a lot of the textures and the atmospheres in here. The, in sort of, well, it's not like industrial drums, although they kind of have some of that character too, but like it's the damn it, I can't think of the right words. It's just like that sort of steady marching pace with them. That's kind of neat, but yeah, there's like lots of good stuff here. It's just, yeah, I wouldn't recommend trying to just polish it off. That's how I feel about that. It'd be more fun for you to do something a little bit different. Next up, we have Aiden. I've been trying to produce on and off for about a year. Here's one of my attempts at some sort of jump up drum and bass. I don't do much synth sound design at all. Mostly I add effects and change presets. So you gotta start somewhere, dude. I could use help with the arrangement. I find my tracks sound unprofessional at times and boring. So this is an unfinished song. Well, let's have a look. And no shame for using presets. What matters is that you get what's in your head out onto paper. And if you're not managing that, then we will see why and maybe offer some suggestions. So, 2 seconds while I mute myself.
Hit me with that feeling.
So it sounds like you're aiming sort of a bit of, drum pump drum bass, but also a little bit of the, remind me a bit of some of the UK bass house kind of stuff, and maybe a little bit of what you hear in some grime tracks as well. So yeah, I'm gonna stand by my first point of changing your velocities in your drums. If you're gonna use MIDI drums like that, you obviously want it to sound somewhat like it's either sampled from some other record, like the old school drum and bass tracks were, in which case they were sampling drum breaks and things that were played by real drummers, or you want to make it actually sound like it's an actual drummer that's been playing this, in which case, again, you still have to alternate your velocities to make it sound organic, because a drummer can't play the same volume. Like each hit, so each time they hit the kick drum, each time they tap the hi-hats, it's going to be a slightly different volume, even if they're really good and really steady. There's going to be minor variations in that. So you have to match that. And while some sound libraries or whatever do try and do that themselves a little bit, they're still trying to do it based on what you're telling them to do. And so that's one of the reasons why alternating velocities can be really handy as well there, even if you're using like a drum kit library or something, because then you can tell how loud each note needs to be. So especially pay attention to the ones where it's lots and lots of notes, because like the hi-hats, because it's just more obvious when it's the same hit every time, because then it's just like and you just sort of pick it out because it's doing the same thing. The other thing I've noticed, when you get your sort of weird and syncopated with your bass, but your drums are still doing the same semi-rigid thing they've been doing the entire time. So you've got to kind of choose where you want your rhythm to sit, because it is still a call and response to it. Like, there's a dynamic at play between them actually batting off each other. It's like when you got the bit where it's just the sort of more drum bassy bass sound where it's sustained, the relationship doesn't matter quite so much, because it's almost playing a different piece. But when you've got the really stabby bass, then that's kind of trying to occupy the same transient qualities as your drums. In which case, when it's offbeat, it's more noticeable. Now, I wouldn't necessarily change the bass. I'd say change your drums. Change the pattern of them, so that they're then fitting more to that syncopated rhythm that you've got going on with your bass. So it's like, that's then the transition point, and it'll change up the vibe of that middle section a bit as well. So technically it'll kill the groove a little bit possibly, but it's almost like a breather before you come back into your groove. I think it could still be okay. Because this is kind of a thing with, when a lot of people, when they're writing songs, they suggest that a listener can only pay attention to so many things at once. So like, you got your drums, you've got your bass, you've got maybe some chords and pads kind of thing to sort of solidify the key of the track, and you got your lead melody, and then maybe, if you can get away with it, some little flicks of Foley or stuff that doesn't happen all the time, just sort of sparkly bits. So when you're doing something like this, where you've got a really drum heavy section and then a really stabby bass oriented section, it's like you're changing the priority of which of those elements that you're dealing with is the important thing for that section. So when you do that, you go all in and make sure that everything else revolves around that one element, and that keeps it coherent in that sense. At least I don't know, that's how I tend to try and aim for it. But good vibe so far. And if you ever feel like you're I don't think this track is boring. I don't think this track is boring, but maybe it's a case your commentary is more that you struggle to do longer tracks. This isn't very long. It's 2 minutes 10 seconds. In which case, your next step, I think, in terms of, you say you start with presets, that's fine. Then you have to then have a see about learning how what you can do with automating those presets, changing things like the attack, decay, release, sustain of the notes that you play, the effects that you can have. Which a lot of synths come with effects inside the plugin chain, and you can actually set your DAW to change those numbers, the actual variables, as you go along. So you may start with the preset, but your track itself, based on however you want to control the energy levels and whatever else, it won't stick to the preset outside of the entirely, because you're going to modulate different aspects of it as you go along. And it's a good way to sort of start learning your sound design a little bit, while also not trying to do everything from scratch, because you don't need to technically. It's just something handy to understand how things work. And maybe at some point as well, you'll find you start out building up your own patch library anyway. So you still have presets, but then they're your presets and not wherever you got them from. You'll have evolved them, adapted them. So there's a lot to get through. It's not like you can just magic it. Obviously, I know you know that. My brain is, but I feel you'll get there. I have confidence in you, and it's meant to be fun. If you find something that's not quite so interesting right now, then don't do it right now. Do something else right now with it. If you're more interested in learning drum program, focus on that, and cut corners elsewhere until you get bored of doing drum stuff. Next up, we have Grapevine. I don't know what you going. Are you in the chat? Or AMR, maybe? Yeah. Are you around? Oh, no, not Grape Flavor. Damn it, Discord. Alright, you're there. Hello, Grapevine for all. Do you have any good wine for us? Anything you want, any ideas, welcome. AMR, Scars 1. Does that mean there's a Scars 2?
Will you stay if we crash down?
Energy is suggesting the vocals might seem like too much reverb. I think the level of reverb could work, but right now the reverb is kind of just doing its own thing, separate to the rest of your track. I'd probably automate some kind of gate to your kick and your reverb, so that, or I don't know, give it some sort of quality that's percussive in that tail, so it's not just this static weird reverb thing that's going on, and just, yeah, you could sidechain it, and just give it some sort of rhythmic quality, because right now it sounds like you just have a reverb tail to make the vocal sound sort of big, but it doesn't really fit in with anything else as it stands. And the other thing as well, I think, is that maybe it's a little bit too loud as well. I don't know. Anyone else in the comments there have any chats, have any suggestions? It isn't really something I normally listen to either. I feel like everything else is also kind of like, it's really loud, but also is just really dry too, which again makes the reverb stand out a lot. Because, yeah, it's just sort of, then it doesn't really feel like they're living in the same space. So, like that do is this is sort of sitting there. It does one thing. It doesn't really stick around much. Maybe some delays and reverbs there would be just experiment a bit. Eggy saying I would expect more grit in the vocals with that bass line. It's a good suggestion. Now, how would one? I guess that would be a case of maybe running it through an amp sim or something along that lines to add the grit artificially. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be too much. Maybe you do it on a parallel chain, so you end up with like just being able to balance it that way. The other thing would be to soft saturate it a little bit, perhaps, or bit crush it slightly. Because obviously, this is some sort of vocal sample, you can't ask the vocalist to try and do it in a more gritty fashion. You're gonna have to, if that was the direction you go in, it would be more, you're gonna have to improvise. I don't know, I think on the whole it's not bad. It's just your processing that needs just a little bit of tweaking. And, I don't know, I haven't thought of, I don't really listen to enough of this type of music to know what's the standard. You'll have to send us some examples in events and bots of stuff you listen to in this style that we can listen to later. Like, what inspires you? Next up, I've got a few people here who haven't responded to being around. So we're gonna just... There was another one here. Eggy, you submitted a second one, so we're just gonna play that next. Where is it? Yo. Okay, since we got a few people who haven't turned up, yes, let me reopen the queue. I will take a couple more submissions while we're playing Eggy's track. It's link here to summon the form. There we go. While I find this thingy. No, it's not that one. It's the next one then. Which one? No. Where is it? No. Must be 14 then? Oh, I saw it. No. Before then? Where is it? No. Ah, there it is. Found it. Alright, we'll play this second submission from Eggy. Someone else can submit something in. Yeah, that's still... This is Martez by Eggy. Trying to get an idea for dynamics. It's quite an original mix, and I've gently boosted it, but not sure if it messes with the mood or not. Thank you very much for submitting. energy. I like the texture of the song. Kind of want more variation on the bass or lack of bass for smaller sections. I think that's kind of just the whole thing. It's loud, but it's also just lacking in dynamics in general. Like it's all the same density almost all the way through. So I would just strip things back in places. That would be what I would do for this. Like the overall density, it doesn't really bother. Like the overall volume of the track doesn't bother me because I think it's okay. Like you haven't. It's not like you made anything clip or anything weird like that. It's doesn't ruin the vibe, but it's just the overall track itself is just one constant stream of the same kind of sounds. So just pull it back a little bit and let us appreciate each sound one at a time, kind of thing, almost. I don't know. I don't think it would make it quieter. In fact, it'd probably make it a little bit easier just to pull your volume up if things aren't so dense. You know, makes it easier to deal with in the master. But nice vibe though on the whole. Very sort of. I do like that bass sound, and I like the weird little vocal sounds, and I think they're quite pretty. So I don't know. Anyone else in the chat have any other commentary? Next up is Nitro Chalk, 6-sided. Yeah, I guess we can take one more submission. You came in too late for what? I don't think I've played yours yet. The queue's still open. Tap Daddy Trap Battle submission. Okay. That slapped pretty hard. I would kind of appreciate more of it than just a fade out outro. Because, I don't know, yeah, I don't know, the outro, like, songs deserve good outros, and something that slaps this hard deserves something equally slappy to close it out, rather than just a fade out. That's sort of like the lazy solution. Don't know what this trap battle thing is, but good luck with it anyway. I made it in 2 hours. God. All these people who can make like crazy stuff in 2 hours, and then there's me, and I'm like, take 12 years to finish one song. Nah, I'm not quite that bad, but you know, sometimes I do feel like I'm too slow. So, good job for 2 hours. Spend another hour and finish it. Exactly, Surreal. Good job. Thank you for your submission. I guess we'll just move on because I don't think of anything useful beyond the outro. Oh no, adverts! How dare you! God, darn it! Moving forward by Moi Mahui is your username on the Discord. Moi. I know it's really moi. Mohoy. Or is it moi moha? Mahua? Ignore me. I'm just being silly now. It is what I do. It is what I do. The more you know. So what you're saying is the French are self-centered here. Right now, it's like vlogger music. Like, it's not really taking anyone's attention. It's just sort of sitting there in the background. And meanwhile, whoever's on screen is doing, like, I don't know, their shopping haul video or something, whatever it is that they do these days on YouTube and TikTok. Well, it's a nice vibe, but it just lacks tension. I think that's the biggest thing that sort of brings something from being backgroundy to being foregroundy, is whether it has a sense of tension about it that then goes, ooh, what's going to happen next? Like, even you look at stuff that's sort of radio friendly, it's there's still a sense of suspense. Oh, we got a little bit of it here. A little bit, just a smidge. And then we're back. Yeah, like, give us more of that. More. Done it. You mean started from the middle classes, now we're here if you're Drake. Yeah, it just needs more of just more stuff, just more interesting variations in the chords. That plucky bell sound, they need some automation on the cut-offs and stuff so that it actually evolves. It needs to do more than just it needs to do like and we're going a little bit of chord change here. Just a little. So Surreal suggesting checking out Ben Bomer Beyond Beliefs. Sevenths are also always fun. Even fifths can be interesting sometimes. Just to throw in there and change it up. So, nice vibe, but yeah, my honest feedback is it just needs a lot more attention to really be engaging. And obviously, you know, I could say, "I'll do this or do that," and just, but I you know, it's your song. You're doing the songwriting here. Just keep that in mind of whether you're like actually driving people somewhere or just keeping the same thing. You need to spice it up a little bit more to actually make us want to pay attention. And at least your sound design is nice. Your sound design itself is nice, but it's very static as it is right now as well, which is hurting the sense of the arrangement. Any other examples in the chat there? Take that journey idea and make it more of a journey. Journey. We do love a good journey. Don't stop copyright strikes. That's not what I want. What are you doing? Thank you. Next up we have Neurotic FM 105 by Schlepp. Mix and sound suggestion feedback, please. So, energy suggestion that sub bass could be a little more subby. Admittedly, headphones aren't necessarily the best environment to test whether it's making everything rumble in a satisfying way. I don't own a sub pack or anything like that to really reference, but I thought it sounded pretty good. I thought that the harmonic edge to the bass is really satisfying. I agree with maybe making the drums a little bit more aggro in places. Like, it could be an entire section just driven entirely by that percussion. Because that percussion itself, the patterns and stuff are really satisfying. The sounds, the timbre quality to them is really nice. I think of the other feedback that people haven't mentioned in the chat is that vocal sample you've got there. I'd like a few moments where it's not doing the same pitch, where like, it's just doing and maybe sometimes you go or or it's like something weird. Just it's like it's on the front, but like it doesn't change, so it's really noticeable that it does the same thing every time. And when everything else is doing it all the way, evolving so much, you can't just leave one element out and say, just, hey, I'm here. I'm gonna do the same thing over and over again. So yeah, I tweaked that a little bit. On the whole, though, really satisfying glitch choppy weirdness. That was quite a fun track. So thank you for your submission, Schlepp. Any other feedback from the chat there? Please deliver it now while we figure out. Neola is next. Never really rap, so let me know how it is. I guess you're attempting to rap on this track? Let's find out. Well, I wouldn't say it's never repeat exactly the same. It's if you are going to repeat exactly the same, it's make it deliberate, not just laziness. Rather than it being something you just forgot to do or whatever. It has to be for a reason. Reflection demo by Laws.
All I can do is just live my life to figure out if I can do the shit that keeps me up at night. All I can do is just live my life to figure out if I can do the shit that keeps me up at night. Feel like you're down in a hole full of past versions of yourself. Shit trying to get out is a thing in itself. When you think you've reached the top of the top, only to be collecting dust on a shelf. That's the shit that everyone felt. Working a 9 to 5, yet the kids are getting hungry and trying to keep them alive. Thank God they do the best that they're told. Inspector came over, told me the house has black mold. My mother came over, her heart still ice cold. All she can do is scold and die alone when she get old. My poor father ain't tended to when he has a cold. Shit, I'm reaching the limit of my threshold. My kids are the only reason I got my heart of gold. So honestly, all I can do is just live my life to figure out if I can do the shit that keeps me up at night. All I can do is just live my life to figure out if I can do the shit that keeps me up at night.
So I agree with the chat so far with about needing the vocals being direct. Not only that, but you're very keen on trying to stay on beat all the time. It might be easier to perform, but also more interesting to have some aspects of your lyrics move around your beat a little bit more. Like you should prolong, like if you're already doing a sort of not entirely like gunfire rap, thing. You're doing a little bit of a sing-songy attempt at it. I'd say lean into that and have some, extend some notes a little bit more. So it's like, instead of my mother, you could lean in and start it early. So it'd be my mother, and then you go into the flow. And then so like something like that where you sort of have an ebb and a flow to your cadence, because right now you're trying to sort of make it just rigid and on beat every time. And when your beat is already kind of static, you don't need to do that. You can move around a little bit. The other thing I agree with, some like psychedelic effects, stuff like, I don't know, anyone got any good psychedelic effects plugins? I'm thinking maybe something just like some subtle phasering, maybe a bit of a chorus in place. The other thing as well is you can start stacking your vocals in places for emphasis, so you can go full on choir type thing and to emphasize specific phrases, I think, and it would actually work quite well with this style. But considering you don't really, if this is not something you do often, I'd say it's a good attempt, and it's just a matter of continuing to practice and tweak how you deliver it. Like now you've got this sort of take, you've got a bass line, and then you can start moving stuff around and seeing if you can do it in better, basically in a more interesting, dynamic manner. You'll have to. I don't know if you see when like this is you are watching sort of, so I guess you're there. But I don't know how. Like, have you memorized the lyrics for this? Because that's the thing as well that I find does affect my vocal delivery as well. Is if I haven't learned all the words, it gets harder to really twist them around in a way that actually makes any sense. But obviously that just takes practice and just to stick at that one. Memorization can be a pain in the arse. But a nice vibe. The other thing I think with lyrically as well, maybe try and find more half rhymes, because there's a section, for example, where you rhyme everything with OLD, and it's again not so dynamic when you can. There are other words that convey similar meanings that sound sort of similar, so you can really play with it a little bit, I think, and maybe just double check that you have got the best version of your lyrics, and don't just settle for what you've got now. Really go through some variations to refine it. Next up we have Bona Fidelity. Are you in the chat there? I should have checked earlier. Jonas. It's you. Well, thank you for confused. How do you have like a million aliases, Zuriel? It's Genozi is your Discord username. Bona Fidelity is your SoundCloud artist name here, and then you confusing me. Alright, so this is your track now on, and the name specific feedback, just in it for the vibes. Okay, well let's vibe out.
like I'm dying. You were good to me. Leaving isn't better than trying. You were good to me. I know it's easier to run, but I feel like I'm dying. Yeah. You were good to me.
Whip, 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 whip. I thought that was pretty nice. Six-sided saying, I think the drums rely heavily on the open hi-hat to pull together with the rest of the track. I sort of, maybe it could have gotten away with being a little bit more lo-fi for the rest of the sounds, because they are sort of very, very punchy in comparison to the really dreamy synths. But, I don't know, I think mostly it still works. And you're right, the hi-hats do kind of make everything click. It's that sort of, garage. Garage. I'll get made fun of by all the Americans. Garage. Nostalgic. I've always found that a weird one in terms of atmosphere, because what is nostalgia? Like, you know, it's sort of longing for a past that was kind of like feels better than it probably was. And I don't know, for me it's a sort of a mellow track that sort of like you might put on before going to a party or something. Yeah. Alright, so, Ace Summers has appeared in the chat there. Are you able to watch now? Any particular reason it was nostalgic for you, Six-Sided? Is there, like, does it remind you of a specific era of your life? So, Ace Summers has appeared, so I guess I will play yours too. That's fine. Next we'll go with Six-Sided, and then we'll close up with Ace Summers then. Already released, but I'd like to recreate lensiness and fit into a bigger picture. Any ideas of improvements to be made? I'm not too happy with the sound design. Okay, so trying to extend this. Well, I would agree with Surreal there, needing that it needs more impact in places, like, you know. So it's almost verging on cinematic, and it definitely has that sort of tango, dancey vibes, which is cool. Then the outro. Outro is almost like a ballet, which is interesting as well. I think if you are going to expand the ideas, like, I don't know, an intro for an album or something, you're gonna have to watch some, like, Spanish musicals or something, you know, like movies and whatnot that you can find on, like, YouTube or whatever, and see how they manage their transitions and, yeah, like, it's so tough to sort of figure out what the right move here is. Because it is, you know, it's definitely a dance track. It's just not a club track. Not in that sense. You never liked Spanish music. Okay, well that makes things a little bit difficult. And the way you could, the other thing would be remember when everything had Spanish. I don't really remember this being a thing in the UK, but okay. It's either you make Despacito 2. I like. You're gonna have to obviously find a way to riff on your own melodic ideas that you've got here. If you're gonna extend it further, you know, it's you've got to just build on what you've already made. But maybe about trying to cycle through different tempos, because there's some faster dance styles that are in the same vein that you can use to ramp up the intensity and then come back down, and you know. And it's just, again, that weird belay bit at the end throws me as well. It's almost like it would want to be a break rather than an outro. Where you just sort of, and then you somehow combine the two again. There's so many ways you could take this. I'm not really sure I'm thinking of anything actually useful there. So, we're going to move on for now to Ace Summers. I see you on the Discord chat, so that's fine. This will be the last track for tonight, since there's a couple of people off, like, asleep, I guess. I don't know. Step Up Masters by Ace Summers. No specific feedback requests, so this will be our last track of the night. Any feedback welcome. Thank you very much for submissions tonight and feedback and friends. I will be back looking like October 11th. Well, I'll see what else I can get on with Aiden as well. We can maybe have a full team next time. Sorry, my bad. that was a pretty hype track to close out on. That was A Summer Step Up Master. Sorry, Colester. Yeah, we're a couple hours. We have a feedback channel as well there. People do use sometimes, but we'll try and be back for feedback stream on the 11th of October. Looks like. So I will. We've got Aiden. He's agreed to come on, so he should be available then. And I'll see who else I can get on. Anyone in the chat, if you want to be added to that list of people to come on the 11th, please let me know. DM me on Discord or whatever. As far as feedback for this one, I don't know. I thought it was pretty hype. Zuriel, how would you recommend sharking down that mud? That little bit that you heard. What would be the best approach in your view? I think for me at that point, I'd probably just have to rely entirely on visual aids to, spectrum analysis and that kind of thing, dynamic EQs to sort of track it down, lowering the bass a tiny bit and checking the low mids. So, I think that's a fairly easy recommendation there to follow through. Otherwise, I agree that it was pretty hype, and thank you for your submission. I guess I don't really have anything else useful to suggest. So, good job. Thank you everyone for your submissions tonight, and we will be back at, hopefully it looks like October 11th possibly. We'll see what I can do on that one. And I hope you all have a good evening, and thank you all for submissions. It's been wonderful tonight, and good night. This has been Feedback and me. You guys are the friends, I guess. Yes, you're all the friends. Good night. Love you.